Thank you for coming in. My name is Bill Boorman. I recognise some faces from the sessions yesterday. For those of you who are here for the first time, my background is I've worked in and around recruiting for just about 30 years. I started my first agency job when I was 16. I ended up being a training and human resources and operations director for a national recruitment business that we grew from 6 offices to 137 during some fairly mad times. And I had my own consulting business for 4 great years and 1 not so great year, which provided training and support services purely to recruitment agencies. And 3 years ago, I moved really out of necessity into looking at the whole area of social media, social recruitment, and how recruitment was changing. And I now work globally with product companies like Colleague on development of products and advising on the market as a whole. What we're going to talk about today is really the opportunity. I think there's a real danger facing recruitment businesses right now, which concerns me. Having come from an agency background, what I'm going to talk about today isn't a case of let's go agency bashing. There's plenty enough of that going on. But there is, I think that certainly within the UK and Europe, the agency sector is probably under more threat from different forces than we ever have been previously. Not just the economy. I think there's lots of other things which is making it harder and harder to do business. Which really means we need to look at the business model, the way that we deliver, and everything from charging models just to rethink. I think the biggest problem facing the sector as a whole, and it doesn't matter where I speak to, is really the Nero factor. We kind of think if we stand in the sea and say, "Don't wash over me," we're going to be okay. I talk to a lot of people who say, "Well, if it's not broke, don't fix it." We've always done things this way. We've always done business this way. Why is there a need to change? And I think there is a real opportunity as much as there's a threat if we look at what's actually going on in the world and how what's changing. So that's some of what I'm going to talk about today, some of which you may disagree with. I encourage you to heckle. Please jump in on any point that you disagree with or that you think is wrong, because there are a few things which you may disagree with. If this session isn't for you, if you get bored or it's not what you signed up for, feel free to stand up and walk out. I won't be offended. I've got fairly broad shoulders. So if it's not right for you, feel free to leave. At the end of the session, there is a white paper available, which is this one, which comes about following the research that I did into the market, and that's available on stand. Louis, what's the stand? 112. On stand 112. So if you want to go to stand 112, you can download the paper. It's free. I'll sign it for you if you really want a signed copy, but you probably don't. So from transaction to relationship, and if we have a look at what we actually mean by that, the internet changed the way that we recruited. As a recruiter, when I started out, I was never allowed more than 4 candidates. I certainly could never send a candidate out of my office without having interviewed them and met them face to face. If we took a job description from a client, we spent 45 minutes to an hour doing that. That's when we didn't go out and do it in person. The internet came along and changed the way recruitment works. And for me, the internet came along in 1991. Since 1991, the internet has effectively de-skilled recruitment practices. It's taken away what was the cornerstone of good recruitment and the way that we do business. Because how did it actually change? First thing is, huge volumes of candidates. Huge volumes of candidates. And as a consultant, I go into recruitment businesses and say, what's the issue? And they go, we've got a real candidate shortage. We've got a real candidate shortage. I go, right, how many candidates have you got in your database? They say, oh, we've got 500,000. That's not a candidate shortage. You'll hear people talk about a war for talent or talent shortage, skills gap. I don't believe that actually exists in terms of a talent shortage or skills gap. I just think there's so much of it, there's so much supply, that we find it very hard to find the right ones, the right people, to reach the right people because of the way in which we go about business. So we have huge volumes of candidates, and what do What do businesses do as a whole? Every time we get a new job from somebody, we push it out via Boorman or any of the job posters. We push it out to every job board that we can, as many free job boards as we can, and we just try and get candidates in and stuff them into the system. And this is the way, really, most people use their databases. It's the way people think. So, in the old days, when someone wanted a job, they used to have to write to me. They used to have to come and arrive with their CV, usually handwritten, because typewriters were just about evolving at that time. They would have to bring, if they wanted to apply, or they'd fill in an application form if they wanted to apply for a job. That was the way that they worked. And I had a filing cabinet. And in that filing cabinet, I put all the CVs that I got in the filing cabinet. And I put them in the filing cabinet, and I kept them for 7 years. I know I kept them for 7 years because the law said I had to keep them for 7 years, not for any other purpose. And I stuck them in the filing cabinet. And when my filing cabinet was full, I went out and bought another filing cabinet. And so I reached the point where I had so many filing cabinets, I actually had to reinforce the floor. But never once did I ever open the drawer and have a look at what was inside. What we've actually done now through email and through internet and through the way in which we work is we've done exactly the same thing, just on a huge scale. Because we're saving everything that we get, but everything that we do within our systems and our process is built for storage, not retrieval. We're not building client records or candidate records in a way in which we can actually search. We're not indexing anything. We're making it very hard to get information. For example, when I look at when I look at agency databases, very often I see the information that's being recorded is all the information that I don't actually want. It's kind of like the fluffy chat stuff. I think the most important thing you need to do in terms of how you organise information is how you tag it. Are you organising and thinking of it as data? Are you organising the data so that you can search and retrieve and use it for your benefit? And are you using it on a 360-degree basis? So every time you put some data in, if you put CV in from a client, you should automatically, a CV from a candidate, you should automatically be extracting the companies they've worked at, the skills they've got and everything else, and putting that in your database so you can go and search. And these are the things that I see missing, is that actually what we're doing is doing everything from a legal point of view, because the law says we have to do it, so we want to nod, and from a storage point of view, but not from an effectiveness point of view. So the volume that we've ended up with, both in terms of clients and jobs we're working on, and candidates, means we don't have a relationship with anyone really. And a lot of people I talk to will say, oh yeah, I have a really good relationship with my candidates and clients. I question that. In that the relationship is very much transactional. I have a good relationship with people while they're looking for a job. When they're not looking for a job, they sit in my database and hopefully they'll ring me up in 3 years' time or something like that. The other thing the internet did is it changed geography. So when we opened a sales recruitment business, we opened with 6 offices because we needed to follow the backbone of the motorways, because we calculated that in a perm sales recruitment business, we couldn't do business in more than a 100-mile radius because people had to come into our office and see us. So strategically, where we put the offices was very important. The industrial and commercial business, we couldn't, if we wanted to do business in the next town, we had to open an office. That's how we ended up with 163 offices. We did strawberry patching, so we'd start in a town, sell into the next town, go and interview some candidates in the job centre and then open another one. Very, very typical model, because it was a face-to-face business. And it was a face-to-face business based on local relationships. Suddenly the internet comes along, doesn't matter where in the world or where you are, in your back bedroom, you can do business over a much wider geographical area. So that changed the nature of relationships, from relationship into transaction. Face-to-face interviews pretty much died out for a lot of recruitment businesses. We would do it as an exception rather than the rule, in terms of when we would get face-to-face and meet people. Quite often, I'll go into businesses, have a look at the detail we've got on the candidates in terms of an interview. What we've got is a CV with some notes scribbled on the side, a few notes, something which has been emailed over, and no real depth of detail which will enable us to build a relationship. The margins have been hammered, right? Everyone's had their margins reduced because we're in a situation where there was oversupply in the market in terms of agencies and very little to choose between one supplier and another if you're a customer. So if you can't differentiate between one supplier and another of anything, you will always base your decision on the cheapest. And people were very willing to lower their price. So the other thing that the internet did was actually started hammering margins for everything. And when your margins are getting hammered, it's hard for you to do a good job effectively. It's hard for you to put time on. There's a declining dependence on agencies. We used to be really in a position of luxury for a long time, where if you wanted to recruit, you used an agency. That's what you did. If you wanted a job, you went to an agency. That's what you did. That world doesn't exist anymore. We are a luxury service. We're a luxury service. We're not necessary. So we need to provide more. And I think that's really important. People begin to think about what they're offering. Because there's not a dependence on us anymore. It's not essential in what we do. And there's plenty of people for them to choose from. We've got a real growth right now of direct sourcing. Most of the companies I work with are direct hiring companies. Direct hiring companies. And they'll come to me, they'll go, right, there's 3 reasons why we are reducing our use of agencies. 3 reasons. Cost is obviously a factor. Cost of hire, the average cost of hire in the UK, the average cost of hire was £4,300. If you contrast the average cost of hire between £4,300 and you contrast it with the States, the average cost of hire is $1,600 because there's limited use of agency, right? So there's a cost benefit. They're looking at it and saying, actually, it will be cheaper for us to do it, but we've also got the emergence of employer brand. So companies are beginning to say, if we're going to use our employer brand, we need to tell our story. We can't have somebody else telling our story. We need to tell it directly. So then there's employer brand, and the third thing, which is the big one right now, I was at the awards last night, and all of the major employers that were there were saying we are reducing our use of agencies because our candidate experience declines significantly when we use agencies. Now, that wasn't a case of saying that the agencies were providing a poor service, because we had a long conversation about this, obviously. It wasn't a case that the agencies were providing poor service. What it was actually the distance between the hiring manager and the recruiter. And that when they used an agency, effectively, responsibility for candidate experience just got defaulted. So these are the reasons that they're looking at moving to direct sourcing. We've got the emergence of social media and employer branding. It's very easy for people to be connected, whether they're candidates or clients. It's very easy for people to go direct to potential jobs now without needing a middleman to do that. And that was very often the strength that we held, was if you want to get a job in this company, you need to come and see us because we represent that. That's kind of disappearing now. And it's easy for candidates, and talent finding is really easy. Once you learn to do some basic stuff on the internet, actually finding people is really easy. I'm not going to say recruiting people is easy, because I don't believe it is. I think it's harder than it ever has been. But finding and locating people, what used to be our strength was we had these people in our database and nobody else had them. So if you wanted to hire someone, we could go to our database and get them out and say, there you go. This is the supply. This is the supply chain. That supply chain is really fragmented. So it's very easy for them to go to LinkedIn, go to other places and do it themselves. Right? So that's kind of how the internet changed recruitment. And you've got and there are massive pressures on agencies in the model of what's delivered. First one's over competition. Lots of people fishing in the same pond, right? Lots of people. Reduced margins, so you're getting less return for more work because you're having to work harder to put people in. There's a distinct lack of client loyalty. Because a client will say, actually, if we're going to use agencies, we might as well use 10. We might as well just throw them out and see what comes out of the candidate. We might as well go use a job escrow or something like that and give it out to 20 agencies, some of whom we never speak to. We just send them a jobs list every week, or we use a managed vendor agreement. And all of that actually moves recruiting closer and closer, or sits it firmly in the transactional camp of, you send us a job, we send you some CVs. Sometimes they fit, sometimes they don't. There's a distinct distance between recruiters and hiring managers, right? And when you think about it, more and more barriers being put in the way to a recruiter being able to do a good job in terms of understanding a job requirement, being able to have a real close first-hand experience, equally being able to give back feedback to candidates and provide that candidate experience that they're really looking for, because we're not talking to the hiring people. There's been a barrier put there to say, stay away, we're going to put more and more technology and more people in the way to say you've got to go through the HR department, you've got to go through the process. This is the way in which you have to work. What's been the reaction to that? Post and pray and source and spray. Post and pray was, actually, because we're not going to fill many jobs, we need to advertise every single job we get. So as soon as we get it, it goes out. It might just be the free job boards, because now we have avenues to do that. Let's automatically advertise every job before we've searched, before we even looked at whether we've got some people that we're connected with in our candidate network. So automatically advertising jobs, post and pray, wait and see, let's hope we get some emails in, let's hope we get some candidates back. Then along came LinkedIn, and what did we do with LinkedIn as recruiters? We said, I've got this idea, let's do exactly the same thing. So if I'm searching for a sales manager in Reading, I'll go to LinkedIn and I'll say sales manager Reading. Every result gets the same email. Got a fantastic job for you. Come and have a look at it. Perfect opportunity. We know ourselves from LinkedIn accounts how many emails do we get offering us junior recruiting jobs when you're going to own a business. Why we send it. Right? This is what happens. And we have to think about how that impacts on brand recruiter and the way that we do things. So everyone's basically chasing the same type candidates. Because what happens is the candidates who, I was speaking about sourcing yesterday, the candidates who are in jobs, reasonably happy, don't want to be found. So the ones who want to be found, who label themselves, who put themselves out on databases, put their detailed LinkedIn profile up to say, come find me. The ones who want to be found are either the unemployed or the unemployable. So the people who we find and the people who are responding and the volume that we're getting, that's why so often I'm getting recruiters saying to me, this is the problem, I just have too many bad candidates. I put an ad up and I've no idea why these people apply to me. I know why they apply to you, because actually you don't advertise with what you want in the job. Because you're so scared of one of your competitors finding out who your clients are. That you hide information away and make it hard for people to see exactly what job they can get. We'll come on to that in a minute. So everyone's chasing the same tired candidates, and the candidates go, what do? We get the same people back in, we brush them down, we send them out again. This is the great white hope, off they go, and we hope to make some money out of that. And we are rewarded in the model that we use based on placement, not retention. And I'm not questioning the ethics of businesses, but actually the way in which we make money is to place someone with a business for 3 months. That's how we make our money. And as a result, we get stuck into that. So I think, and I actually believe that hiring, and I say this to them quite often, hiring companies get the service which they deserve. They receive the service which they deserve. And frankly, the service is really poor. I wouldn't pay for it. I wouldn't pay for it, I'd do it myself. And that frightens me. That frightens me in terms of the sex. So, what do we need to do? What do we need to look at if we're going to change the model, if we're going to change the way we do it? First thing is a wider service offering a lot more than just a placement introduction service. That needs to change, because one of the issues that we've got is because everyone is chasing the same candidates in the same place, and the clients have no loyalty over who they take them from, it's creating a first come, first served. So really, as agency recruiters, we've been pushed into a situation where speed is rewarded over quality of job. Who's the first one to the CV database? Who's the first one to deliver the candidate? Because if you don't do it quickly, your competitor down the road is going to do it. That's what's going to happen. So I'm not saying, oh, everything in an agency is terrible. This is the way the market's been pushed. So we need to look at it and say, right, a wider service offering. What are all the things that we can offer, and how can we package them up and deliver them in different ways? How can we show value? How can we actually show what we do? So we're going to look at some of that, because the other things that have happened in the changing model is direct hiring companies now have either said, right, we'll hire ourselves or we'll RPO. So larger companies, more and more larger companies are moving towards RPO. And the reason they're moving towards RPO is they want a direct hiring model, they just don't know how to do it. So there's a big degree of expertise and data which we can use to position ourselves and look at actually every agency, even if it's a one-man agency, should have an RPO model, should have a model that you can offer to people and go out and say, this is what we'll do, this is how we'll work. There's source only. There's lots of sourcing only, which says, actually, we'll leave the recruitment to you, we'll do the sourcing, but we'll just charge you for the sourcing. Now, that might be on a flat fee, that might be being paid by hours, that might be paid for doing the consultancy work. Actually, we'll just source. We'll source the people, and the rest of the recruitment process, the organising the interviews, the briefing the candidates, doing all that kind of stuff, we'll leave with you. And we'll provide a source-only service. Talent mapping and research, right? Talent mapping and research. Your businesses are built, if you save it and organise it and present it in the right way, to do nothing but collect data. Nothing but collect data. To be able to go out and talk to people with evidence, data-based evidence. In God we trust, everyone else bring data. Dead simple. So if you are interviewing people, if you're getting CVs, if you're talking to companies all the time, we should actually be able to present to any hiring company, go out and say, right, here's the organogram, this is the market, these are the players, these are the people who do the jobs, this is what they're doing at the moment, this is probably their salary level, this is the amount of experience in the market, this is what's going on. But not talking from gut feel, because that's generally what we do. We'll go out and say, oh, we'll give you our opinion, to actually be able to present data, to say, right, here's the market, because we've organised our business to collect data in everything that we're doing. Every job that we take, every client that we talk to, we're asking certain questions which enables us to make the market visual. So when we go out to customers, we're able to go out and say, this is what the market looks like. People pay for talent maps. They pay a lot of money for talent maps, actually. They pay about half the price of a placement fee, sometimes a full placement fee. So just to say, who are all the people in the market, what they're up to at the moment, how long have they been there. And being able to go back is far more powerful if you can go back and say, right, you're looking for 3 years experience, the average experience in your people doing a similar job in your competitors is 18 months, and I can show it to you. Because here's the records of 100 people that we've interviewed or interacted with. Using data to be able to consult, but not just consult, actually that's something we've always done, but to be able to show them, stand in front of them and actually show them what's going on. There's things like employer branding and support, actually being able to help. We should be the experts in recruiting. Therefore, we should be able to help our customers to build things like online hubs where they can actually start employer branding. They could actually making it very easy for them to create their own career sites, and we work with them, making it very easy to generate content. Maybe sometimes that's what we do. Another one that I look at, and I'd love to see an agency brave enough to do this, lots of people say, yeah, nice idea, but actually being rewarded for retention. So instead of charging an introductory fee of however much it is, we charge a fee each year of the employment. Or maybe each month we charge a percentage, you know, like any agency in other businesses. We charge a percentage to the client. So we're saying, right, instead of you rewarding us for an introduction of 3 months, if you employ someone for 5 years, we get 5 years of revenue because that was a good hire for you. If you hire someone for 6 months, they leave after 6 months, it's shared risk. We'll share the risk with you. We actually want to work with you to provide a solution that's a little bit different. So it's thinking different in terms of why do we do the things we do? Actually, usually because we always have. Because we've always done that, rather than something new. Talent pooling and being able to go out and say, right, this is all the available, being able to say, we will start to build talent pools around jobs in your organisation. We'll go and talk to you, we'll profile your company, and we'll identify all the future talent you could employ in competitive positions, people graduating from university, whatever it is. We will build a talent pool in which we have relationships built over time, rather than short-term relationships, transactional relationships, which are just the time at which they're looking for a job. So we're able to demonstrate this is the market, this is where it is, and we will start working strategically with clients to say, we're going to talent pool around your organisation, we're going to know who's available, know who's in the market. They may not even be looking for a job. We're going to be able to inform you what you should be doing, and we're going to be able to show you why you should do that. We're going to be able to make a business case, right? We want to move away from being thought of as like second-hand car salesman or whatever. We want to be able to go and say, right, I'm a businessman. This is the business case. This is the data. This is how I've collected it. Very, very easy for us to do that if we start thinking about our business model in a different way, instead of our business just being introduction, hire, fire. And talent community maintenance. We'll build this talent pool, we'll build this talent community, we'll provide them with online spaces or sometimes physical spaces, and we'll just keep, we'll operate that, not to make placements out of it, but because that's the talent, and we want to have relationships with these people for everybody's mutual benefit, not just ours. It's not just about us making fees. Now, when we do need to make fees, we can do, but we're going to maintain this community. So, because hiring companies will use agencies, that's not going to die, right? The question is, when are they going to start using agencies? The companies I use, one of the businesses I worked with to develop a direct sourcing model was Oracle. 3 years ago, they spent £20 million on agency use. Last year, they spent £400,000. Pretty big drop of revenue. And then that's just one company. There's multiple examples of that. So they're not saying that we won't use agencies, but what they're saying is that old model used to be the bulk recruitment was defaulted to an agency. That's what we did, because we didn't have a recruiting function. So if we had a contact centre and that was 80% of our hiring, we would give the 80% to the agency and we'd do the 20% on the edges. Our IT department would recruit for someone in IT because that was a specialist position. So we would do the specialist stuff, all the general stuff we'd farm out. Now they've actually said, we've actually got that the wrong way around. It's really expensive, and actually, if we've got the volume, we can do that ourselves. There's lots of benefits to us doing it ourselves. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the 80%, and we're going to go to a specialist for 20%. And we might only go to them once or twice a year with one job to do a position. The people who we've got a relationship with. So specialist roles and specialist knowledge. That's really what I want. I want you to be able to provide me with a service which isn't at all about you just putting people in front of you, just sending them CVs, but doing something that I can't do, giving me knowledge or data, giving me access to service that I can't get. I want you to offer me unique candidate relationships, not foot races to the CV database, right? I want you to be able to come and say, these are the people who I have, these are the people in the market, and this is my relationship with them. This is what we do, and we do that by reducing the volume. So, unique candidate relationships, database advice and knowledge, and personal brands of recruiters. You know, agency owners, that scares the hell out of them. That sometimes what happens is, through social media, through local press, through natural tenants, that actually recruiters get bigger than the company brand. To hate them. Actually, if we want our recruiters to be able to be real experts in their market, be able to provide a real service and be the go-to person, be the first person they come to, then they're going to have a strong personal brand. And a personal brand, not a company brand. We need to be partners with HR. We need to be working with HR departments strategically rather than saying that's the enemy. I know for years I trained people and said, don't speak to the HR department. They can't even decide whether they want your coffee in the morning. Stay well away from that. That's changed it with talent management. So we need to actually start to partner people and accept that we're going to build relationships over time. We're not going to build relationships on the strength of one phone call, asking for a job. What do candidates actually want? I researched for the paper candidates to actually go out and say, right, rather than guessing, what is it they actually want from their agencies? This is in order of what they wanted. Overwhelmingly, they wanted an understanding of the niche discipline that they work in. They wanted their recruiter to actually understand not the job but the market in detail. They wanted real market knowledge in terms of, and to be able to believe in the person who was telling them, being able to provide them things like salary reports and benchmark reports and that kind of thing built over time to say, this is kind of the salary and this is what you should be thinking about. Very simple data interrogation. If you've got all the information on candidates, you can go back and say, right, okay, well, this is your skill set, and these are probably the skills you're going to need if you want to move to a job in about 6 or 12 months. This is where the gap is. Because you can do that on LinkedIn now really easily. So benchmark. Once we start collecting data on people in organisations, it's very easy for us to say, right, if you want to go and work for Dell in Reading, these are the skills you're going to need, because that's the skill base in the organisation.
They want prompt feedback. That's the biggest thing. Biggest thing that came back to me regularly was, look, I got a call, they found me on LinkedIn, I got a call, they were all over me, desperate, got me really excited about an opportunity, and I never heard of it. That was it, radio silence. So they want prompt feedback, even if that feedback is I have no feedback. Once you've instigated voice contact, there is an expectation that that voice contact from you is going to continue. And when it doesn't, there's concern. They want regular updates and regular, and this was the big one, relevant opportunities. I don't want you to tell me about every job, but I want you to tell me about the right jobs. I don't want you to tell me about jobs or send me jobs on LinkedIn which I'm overqualified or underqualified or in the wrong part of the country. I don't want you to send me everything, but I do want you to talk to me, and I don't mind if you talk to me every 3 months or 6 months about an opportunity, provided that opportunity is on the money. All I want is not to say that I will always go for jobs, but I will always understand why you've shown me that, or told me about something, or updated me on something. They want unbiased and impartial advice. They want to be able to trust their recruiting advisors, and they don't. They don't, because they believe that you're just in it for the fee. They believe that. And we do very little actually to take away that perception. I don't think the business is that cynical, having been a recruiter for a long time. But that's what they believe, that if we tell them to take a job, that something is a good move for them, it's because we're going to make money, not because it's a good move for them. Because we haven't had a relationship built over time, we haven't had a relationship built over time. So they want aspiration, not just skill matching. They don't want it to be, and because the art of interviewing is going, the matching can only be done on skills or job title, which doesn't necessarily match their basic requirements. They want detailed background on the hiring company, they want career coaching so they get something new, and actually for their consultant to be accessible to them. So if I ring you, I can talk to you. If I email you, you'll reply to me. If you promise me an update, you'll come back to me. Basic courtesy, which volume has disappeared. So what do they want in terms of the new value proposition? Relationship over transaction. Clients and candidates saying the same thing. We want a relationship. We don't want this to be about placement, job, CV sending service. I want you to do for me, candidates and clients saying the same thing, I want you to do for me what I can't do. If all you're doing is the same as me, what's the point? One of us is irrelevant in the process. You know, and you have to think about that. Is the service I'm offering making me irrelevant because they can do it themselves better and quicker and easier? They want unique, clients want unique introductions. I want you to show me a candidate that nobody else is going to. I don't need you to show me lots of people. I want you to show me someone that nobody else is finding. And if all of you, if everyone in this room is all just looking on LinkedIn or just looking on Monster Database or Job Site Database, wherever you are, you're all offering the same candidates. You're just scrapping around for them, just having a little bonfire on it. I want you to offer me somebody unique. I want real consultancy, and I'm going to buy a reputation built on due diligence. I'm going to ask people who I know, whether I'm a candidate or a client, who do you trust? Who's providing you a good service? So suddenly everything's changing. And as a candidate, I want a relationship for my career. Everything's going to be mobile, right, the way in which I want to communicate with you. So that's the first thing from a technology point of view. You're going to build a relationship, you're going to be accessible, you've got to think about mobility, because that's kind of, the numbers are all there. That's where everything's happening. Think about it, 75% of emails are opened on a mobile device. Can people even read your emails? Are you sending emails which are like letters? Right? Emails need to be about 3 lines these days, because they're opened on a mobile device. If you're sending a link to have a look at a job, does it take them to somewhere where when they arrive they can actually read where they're going, or do they reach a dead end? Think about how frustrating that is. And think about where they're doing it, on trains and that kind of thing. We'll be talking more about mobility later. Except if you own a recruitment business, you don't own data anymore. Right? You don't own data. Because you're not in control. You're not in control. And the value of your business, which used to be based on data, isn't based on data anymore. Because all the data is out. It's out there. You just have to accept it. You don't own your consultants' LinkedIn connections. You don't own the network or anything else. Worry about how you're going to use those relationships in the time that you work with people. Because data's everywhere. Fear's holding people back. And how about we actually change the agency model and trust the people who work for us. Trust them to get on with it, rather than the first thing we talk to them about is what's going to happen to them if they leave. Think about social capital. Your network of your business is your net worth. The first checkpoint of anyone is going to be a LinkedIn profile. Your business will be viewed via the profiles of consultants more than your website. More than your website, about 10 times. How much time and money do you invest in making sure the LinkedIn profiles look right? And how much time and money do you invest in SEO and website? Yeah, so think about that. Don't just belong to... think about contribution. How do we contribute? Because we work on the basis of networking is all about the bank of reciprocity. I think I said that right. Which is about, if you're in any community, don't just be there. Don't just, if I walked into a room and said to you, can anyone recommend a candidate to me for this job? You'd all say, first question you say is how much? What's my fee? What's my cut? You wouldn't recommend someone to me. Or you'd say, no, I don't know anyone. Don't know anyone, sorry. But if we'd known each other over time and I'd helped you out with some stuff, and then I said, do you know anyone? You'd be really willing to come back and say yes. And you've got to invest time and effort in your network. You've got to invest that time, and you've got to build relationships before trust and business develop. Same as anything, that's natural human nature. So think about how much time you're investing in social capital. So look at things like introducing video interviewing. Absolutely key, because we can start interviewing candidates again. Right? We forget geography, forget physical limitations. I'll be 2 minutes, mate. Thank you. Forget physical limitations. Video-based interviewing will bring people in, and then start thinking about your CRM. How are you saving information in it, and are you creating it so it can be retrieved, so that you're going back to the same people, so you can talk to the right people? And are you using your database as a filing cabinet, as I talked about in the old days, or as a relationship tool, as in building intelligence and making sure we're messaging people in the right place? So build real relationships and invest every day in networking time. Everyone in your business should spend a minimum of 2 hours a day doing nothing but networking, not about what's the fees. Think about it. I know it scares some people, but actually investing in the wider community in which they work and make their money. To say, right, let's just network with people. High quality relationships and concentrating on how fewer but much stronger relationships. Review your technology to say, does it work for me? Is it mobile? Is it up to date? Is it enabling me to work on relationship rather? Is it giving me the right reminders? Can I search my data? Have I organised it in the right way? Look at your hours of work, because when candidates want to contact you, it's out of office hours. So why can't people? Everyone's got mobile and they can work from home. Why have an office these days? It makes no sense. Why not just have a collection, a community of recruiters, 10 people working effectively all into the same place? Because we're still working on a very old and expensive model of supply. We're making our job very expensive. Be a social organisation with what that means, and that means actually talking, collecting data, contributing, advising, and contribute to the communities that you want to hire from. And when you do that, when you concentrate on the relationship, that I believe is where the future of the business is, and not in the transaction model, because it's broken. Thanks everyone.
Thank you very much.